Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and whatever part of the world that you are in. I hope that you are having an amazing day. This is the Black Conservative Liberal coming through with another one of my opinions on this podcast. In this video, I'm going to be discussing a follow-up to a message to the Democratic Party. This is a clip from MSNBC with Joe Scarborough and Reverend Al Sharpton. And Joe is warning the Democrats what I was saying in my previous podcast. But before I start off on today's topic, I'm just going to do this real quick. I'm going to ask that you please consider giving me a like or a follow or subscribe, hitting that post bell notification, and let's go on ahead and let's get into the video. So as I said in the intro, it's a clip from MSNBC with Joe Scarborough telling Reverend Al Sharpton to give a message to the Democrats that the black voters are far more conservative than what these far leftists think. So let me shut up and let me get into the video.
Rev, I want to talk to you about a real blind spot that a lot of Democrats in the Beltway in D.C. have that you don't, and you've been warning about. But let's just say it right here, and let me say it slowly for my Democratic friends in Washington, D.C. Black voters are more conservative than you are.
Now, this right here, I have to stop because this goes back to one of my previous podcasts. And I would say that I was brought up in what would realistically be considered a conservative household as far as the morals and values that my parents tried to instill in me. Now, when it comes to how money is spent via the government, you know, obviously I was brought up in a Democratic household, so my parents' political beliefs didn't line up with conservatives, how they voted. However, I would say I grew up probably more conservative than some of my Republican friends. I've instilled or tried to instill some of those same morals and values in my children, or I'm still in the process of it. So in the previous videos, I'm really trying to kind of tell the Democratic Party, like, yo, stop being led by the far left, because the far left is a very small group of people. They're the loudest, and they will they seem to be the biggest bullies, but they are not the majority. There are generations of people like me, my parents, and now my children are obviously, you know, a few decades younger, so they might have more of the far left might have more an appeal to them. However, when I talk to one of my children that's of voting age, she's able to spot BS. So like I said, Democratic Party, listen to this, and let's get back to the video.
White woke leaders in Washington, D.C., Hispanic voters are more conservative than you are. White woke leaders in Washington, D.C., Asian American voters are more conservative than you are. White woke voters in Washington, D.C., and they're more conservative on crime. They're more conservative on education. They're more conservative on, quote, these woke issues. Get off of Twitter.
Now, I can't speak for the other races that Joe mentioned, or the other minorities, I should say, but I'm pretty sure that it's pretty accurate. Now, I do want to point out that white elite liberals, you don't live in the same world as the people that you're quote unquote defending, like the defund the police movement. Now, I don't want to get off into a tangent, and this will probably be a different video, but I understood what the overall goal of that was, but the messaging was terrible, and no one ever did anything to fix the messaging. And I'm not blaming this on white liberals or anything like that, white elite liberals, excuse me. I'm just saying that was a movement that we see is hurting people, specifically people of color. So, like, I'm in Atlanta, and the crime here it's wild. Like, people are running around here playing Call of Duty, and it's mainly like kids. Well, what I would consider kids. I mean, like, technically they're adults, but I mean, under 25 and all the way down to, I want to say the youngest shooting that we had was like 11 or 13. I don't know if it was a 13-year-old that shot an 11-year-old or an 11-year-old that shot a 13-year-old, but it's some nonsense. And I'm not blaming this on guns, because I have no issues with people with guns. I am a fan of the constitutional carry that Kemp just signed a few weeks ago. But I don't want to get off into a rant on that. I do want to just point out that what Joe Scarborough is saying is very accurate. Now, the canceling historical figures, I mean, I don't really have a problem with pointing out that people were scum in their previous life, even though they accomplished a lot. The push to be politically correct is definitely some nonsense. Like, it's amazing the fantasy world that people get to create, and everybody else just has to conform. College campuses becoming liberal echo chambers. Yes, it is. I can't use the words that I'd like to on YouTube, because I don't want to get my page flagged early. But it's not the real world. College campuses, like, you're gonna run into difference of opinions in the real world with your neighbors. Like, maybe that's why we're having all this road rage, is because people have been so accustomed to having safe spaces, and then they get into the real world and it's like, nah, this is not how this works. Censoring of conservative voices on social media. These are not public utilities. So if you violate their terms of service, then they can do whatever they want to. Now, if we want to make social media public utilities, then, hey, freedom of speech applies. But if not, then this is all about capitalism. So if a conservative gets banned on social media for whatever reason, then that's on them. That's their terms of service. My conservative colleagues, you all are all about business. Freedom to do what you want, supply and demand. Well, create a better platform. Simple as that.
I'm telling you, and Rev, if you look at Biden runs against 15 progressives. Biden's the only moderate. Biden wins. We've said it time and again. Eric Adams runs as a conservative. He wins Brooklyn. He wins the Bronx. He wins Staten Island. Surprise. He wins Queens as a conservative, as a centrist Democrat. Can you please? I know you've done it a lot.
No.
Can you explain to white woke leaders? Can you explain to them that they're not only losing white dudes in the upper Midwest, they're losing people of color?
They're losing people of color because they really don't get the people of color's life. If you are living in a city, in a neighborhood that is inundated with crime, and you act like that is not an issue, you've already lost me. That is an issue. Yes, we must deal with policing. I've been out front of that. But you cannot ignore when 12-year-old kids who's somebody's niece and neighbor is killed, and you act like that's a non-issue because you're too elitist to live on the ground. We don't want to be manipulated by right-wing elitist billionaires or by left-wing guys that don't understand our life on the ground, that is living in fear of crime, that is living as a result of inflation that is killing us. Many parts of this country, we need gas to go to work. These beltway elitists, these limousine liberals here in New York, don't live in the real world, and blacks have to, and browns have to deal with the real world every day, and we don't sit in crowded subways reading left-wing or right-wing propaganda.
I'd say that he was 100% spot on. It almost sounds like what I've said in one of my previous videos. People that are funding, parading some of these policies don't live in the world where these policies are going to have the greatest impact. I've got no issues with telling people that I live in Atlanta. I live in a middle class. I mean, it's a suburb of Atlanta, so we've got everything from upper class to I'm possibly below poverty. I'm pretty sure. However, it's for the most part, it's been a safe place. However, the past 5 years, and I will say the thing that I've noticed is once the defund the police movement really started to take place, it was only a matter of time before we saw police stop being proactive and just becoming reactive. And I have friends that are in law enforcement, so we've talked about these issues, and they told me what was going to happen years ago, and lo and behold, we are here. You go to Lenox Mall, which was at one point one of the premier malls in the southeast region of the country, and you're walking through metal detectors. And there's a reason why you're walking through metal detectors. And I love Lenox, but I really don't want to have to walk through metal detectors in order to go to the mall. So I don't think that the left, and specifically the far left, will listen to common sense outside of their bubbles. So it's going to be really bad for them come the midterms. And then President Trump is going to really start making a push for his re-election, his rematch against President Biden. If I'm wrong, hey, then it's just my opinion, some anonymous guy on the internet. But if I'm right, the Democrats are in for a very, very long and disastrous road for their party. I don't know how the Democrats will recover from this because the far left is the youth in the Democratic Party. So Democrats better get your party under control, or else it's going to be a long 12 to 16 years. We're going to lose a lot of people. A lot of people that have only voted Democratic, have been taught to only vote Democratic, and to never question why. Well, now it's obvious what the policies are that are driving the Democratic Party, and it does not align with, I can say, a lot of Black Americans' views. We are far more conservative than you think. If you don't believe me, find a Black person that had a relative come out as gay in their family, and you ask them how their experience was. 10 to 1 odds, they were not met with welcoming arms. And we're going to end it on that. So love everybody, folks, and try to have a good day.